Hey, everybody. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. It is I, your favorite claims agent, Carmela George. Go ahead and tell me where you're from. I see some of y'all already started. I like to know who's watching or where you're located anyway. Let's see. We got St. Lou from Boston. Hey, St. Lou, Florida. Happy New Year, everybody. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I'm a little late. Oh, I'll correct the link. Thank you for that. Army 89 to 97. Wow. Georgia's in the house. Frederick, Maryland. I've been there, I believe. All the way from Oregon. I've never traveled there. South Carolina, I pass through there quite often, especially to Myrtle Beach. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Another Georgia in the house. Atlanta. Oh, we got Dominican Republic too. Wow. Maine. One of my friends, Combat Craig, is joining us. If you haven't checked out his YouTube page, check it out. There's a wealth of information there with Combat Craig. Check out his YouTube page, like, subscribe, and cut on the notifications because he gives VA disability information almost every day. Combat Craig. Louisiana. Hey, Don. Happy New Year from Florida. We got Texas in the house. We're covering the map. Raleigh, North Carolina, right up the road. I'm in Jacksonville by Camp Lejeune. Jacksonville, North Carolina. We got Mr. Remy in the house from Chicago, Illinois. We got California, Virginia, Arizona. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you, Combat Craig. That is very kind of you. So are you. I see you growing almost every broadcast. So it's wonderful to be partners and sharing information about the VA. All righty, so let's get started. Y'all throw some questions at me. For my new listeners, my name is Carmela George. I am a VA accredited claims agent. What that means is the organizations like the DAV, VFW, Wounded Warrior Project, organizations you're probably very familiar with that do VA claims, VA benefits. They are accredited by the VA to do claims as organizations. I am individually accredited by the VA, not as a group, but as an individual to present, prepare, and prosecute claims. And they call that being an accredited claims agent. I'm not an attorney. Um, do practice veterans law, but I'm not an attorney. Only went to law school for a little bit, and I didn't graduate. I got a certificate in veterans benefits. So, and if you want to look into that program, that's at William and Mary Law School. But anyway, I am delighted to be with you all tonight. I do claims for a living. I do claims every day, and I absolutely enjoy it. It's become a passion of mine. I love to beat the VA. I love to win. I love to call a veteran. I got to make the call twice today that the veteran was 100% permanent and total. Not that it's about getting 100%, but it's about getting what you deserve. And the veterans were very pleased. One wept on the phone, and that made my day. Seeing somebody be able to regain their footing and turn their life around because they have increased resources is very satisfying work. So, and plus you earned it. These are benefits you were promised when you came into the service. And so, you know, let's get them. All right, throw some questions at me. let's see. Let's start off the bat with the first question I got. Hi, are you taking new clients? At the moment, I am not. I will be in February, but that is going to go very quickly. I have a number of referrals probably tomorrow on my page, maybe tonight if I get to it. I will be releasing a list of people, other claims agents who I think are excellent referrals for you to go to because I'm getting my list is building. And I encourage you to use them. I would not put anybody on the list that I did not think could handle your case adequately. And so when I refer, I do it very personally. And if you don't get the service you need, I'm going to take that personal and probably would, take your case back or something. But, I am going to start putting increased resources out there. But I can tell you by the end of this year, it is my goal. It's my resolution and my goal to have a fully trained staff in place and to be able to take on more veterans. So I have a very heavy caseload right now, but I'm attempting to scale and do even greater things. So I got some good things coming down the pipeline. Thank you for the question. Oh, he said, I used to live in Jayville. Mom was stationed at Lejeune. Awesome. I was born and raised here. My family was here before Lejeune, but they moved to Charlotte. My down the line, my grandparents moved to Charlotte, came back, and they were helped build the roads to Camp Lejeune. So I love Jacksonville as my home, and I consider myself a native of Lejeune. I just retired in September 2021. I have secondary claims I want to file. Do I need to do an intent to file? Thank you. I would. Wait, I just retired in September 2021. Anything you file within a year of September 2021 is going to backdate to September 2021. That's just the way the law works. So while you don't necessarily need an intent to file, it's a nicety, but you don't need it until after September 2022. Have you had anyone that has had a positive outcome with the new expanded comprehensive family caregiver program from an appeal to the VBA? Unfortunately, I can't say that I personally have. The new caregiver opportunity to appeal to the VA is very, very new. There's been very little of them so far. I actually can't off the top of my head name an attorney that has taken those cases. I know there are some, and I will try to find y'all some resources for that too and make a post. But I don't know anybody at this point that has had a positive outcome. But when the VBA releases their database dump for December, you should probably take a search through and see if there's any, new decisions on it. How long TDIU claim takes? I applied December 1st. So I think the average time frame for a claim right now is between 3 and 4 months. TDIU claims can sometimes be lengthy because if you don't turn in the employer form with your application, the VA is going to go out and request that information. And so that can take months to get back. They're going to try at least twice, I believe. So it's best to just get your employer to fill it out yourself and submit that form. That will make your claim go faster. If they won't fill it out, inform the VA that they're refusing to fill it out, and hopefully your claim gets moving. I'm going to weep when I finally get a 102. I understand. I just filed for my TBI. How do I prove needing institutional care if I don't have the care of my wife? That's a very good question. I don't know that I know how to answer that off the top of my head, but it's a matter of, are you ever without your wife? When you're without your wife, what do you have to do? And I think that answers that question. What happens when she's at work or she's how often do you go to the doctor? It's just a matter of, there's various ways to prove that. Just how much are you under a doctor's care? What about medical records were destroyed by private hospital? I get this often. It happens often with older medical records. Here in North Carolina, medical providers are only required to keep records for 11 years. And, it can become difficult if you're trying to put in a claim after that time frame to prove that you had treatment over the years. And so what I would advise is do a sworn declaration detailing your medical treatment, who the doctors were. If you can get the doctor that treated you to write, something that they did treat you, that would help. If you can get any insurance statements where you had insurance from the private hospital, where for payments or billing or something like that, they should have a billing code that shows what conditions they billed for, and that might help you along the way. Just try to think outside the box about it. Do you recommend getting treatment for your service-connected disabilities or a private doc? I'd hate them to say he's getting better when I'm not, and they take your percentage down. So the VA won't automatically reevaluate your case unless your condition isn't static and is scheduled for reevaluation, unless you put a claim in. And so I would say there's not much to worry about there. But do you recommend getting treatment? Yes, I recommend continued treatment after you've been rated. Go to the doctor at least once a year. Get a physical. Let them know what's going on with you, and just continue your care. It's good for you both physically and mentally to keep getting treatment. So I understand for some people the doctor is not a fun option. It's not a desirable option, but it's necessary to have things documented. So keep getting things documented. Overall, 80% PTSD, 80% and PTSD, 70%. Gotcha. Happy New Year. Finally hit 100% PNT. You was very helpful in my process. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, Mr. Davis. Thank you for your service. This is a good question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important are nexus letters in regards to being awarded claims? So I was talking to somebody about this earlier today. Here's what I would say. I do not advise getting a nexus letter until you've been denied. I don't see the need for a nexus letter on a claim. I would not pay for a nexus letter. My approach is always to do it the free way first. Take the free VA exam and see what they say. I say that for a couple reasons. The first is it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Put in a claim. Let them send you for an exam. See how it works out. You might just be granted. Then you don't have to spend any money. The second reason is because at the agency level, the first level, the basic level of the VA, where you turn in the application, VSR looks at it, sends it out for exam, then a rating service specialist looks at it and rates it. They tend to ignore private medical evidence. Now, that's not lawful. It's not right. It's not what the procedure manual tells them to do. But you have theory and you have practice. And what I see every day is private medical evidence being ignored at the very basic level at the VA. That does not usually happen at the Board of Veterans Appeals. They will review all the evidence thoroughly and assign the necessary probative weight. Most of the time, there's higher levels in the BVA, like the Court of Veterans Appeals. So the BVA doesn't always get it right. But in my opinion, they get it right a lot more than the agency does. And so they get it right a lot more than the agency does. And so when it comes to nexus letters, you don't need one necessarily until there's been a denial. Until there's been a denial and you have something to fight, you need medical evidence to fight with. Because there's a point where you can ask for a higher level review if you feel like something was done wrong, or you can submit a supplemental claim. You submit a supplemental claim, it still gets denied. You go back, argue the benefit of the doubt. Or alternatively, which is what I don't advise, but it's still a way you can do things. You can submit everything up front. And if they don't grant it or they don't pay attention to the private medical evidence, then you can ask for a high level review, argue the benefit of the doubt, argue your evidence was supposed to be given probative weight or should have been given more probative weight because it was more persuasive, or and go from there. But generally, I don't like to see money get wasted, and I don't like to see private medical evidence get disregarded, especially, very good private medical evidence. So I just had a case the other day where, the VA said my veteran didn't have sciatica, a diagnosis of sciatica, and in her VA treatment records, there's clearly a diagnosis of bilateral sciatica. I think the diagnosis said lumbago or something with sciatica. And the VA turned around and said, well, there wasn't objective testing, and so that's not a valid diagnosis. What in the world? They don't like to use, not that VA treatment records are private medical evidence. They're very much public medical. Well, they're part of the records. It's something that the VA created. But, what in the world? There's clearly a diagnosis. The doctor did everything they were supposed to do to make that diagnosis. That's just ridiculous. So what my point there is that the VA at the basic level, at the first level, tends to go with the VA exam more often than not. Is it right? No. Does it happen? Yes. And so to answer your question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important are nexus letter in regards to claims being awarded? The answer, in my opinion, is probably between a 7 and an 8. They're very important in regards to being a claims awarded, but I think they need to be weaponized at the right time in your claim. And I'll say again, I don't suggest or advise submitting them up front or paying for a nexus letter on an initial claim. See what the VA says first and then fight back if it gets denied. How long you got to wait to get an increase? I just got 10% for GERD, but need an increase. You could put in for increase the day after you get your rating, or right after you get your rating. You do not have to wait. There is no waiting period. I do not have a VSO, but I'm just waiting on a decision. I have access to my LHI. Okay, that's a good thing. If you have your CMP exam, you should know what the decision will be. I'm newly 90% after LOD injury 30 years ago. My PTSD granted by BBA judge. Congrats for waiting through that process. And spinal injury and radiculopathy are static, granted after CMP. I'm filing second soon. Am I likely to have to do a CMP exam for PTSD? If you're putting in an increase for PTSD, yes, there will be a CMP exam. If you are not putting in an increase for PTSD or touching the PTSD, there will be no CMP exam. If you file something secondary to PTSD, there should still not be an exam for PTSD. So you are not likely to have an exam after that. Good evening. Thank you. Thanks for your service. How do I connect my hypertension? There's 3 elements to service connection, of direct service connection anyway, and that is an event in service, current diagnosis or condition, and continuous or chronicity, which is a showing of treatment over time for the condition. So connecting your hypertension is a matter of meeting those 3 elements if you're trying to get it directly to service. Another way to go about it might be secondary service connection, where you're connecting it secondary to something you already are service connected for. The law says any condition that is caused by a service connected condition can be service connected and rated just like the primary condition. So do whatever is most beneficial towards you. I received a letter to give further info on my MST. I have written statements and so have fellow vets. I thought it was strange that they requested this info after making me wait 8 years for an increase. Could this request be a good thing? Yes, it probably is a good thing. If they're asking for more information and you have that information, I don't see how that is a detriment to you. It should be a very good thing for you. So give them the information they're asking for. At least they're looking into it. After 20 years, I finally got diagnosed in my CMP exam for PTSD and major depressive disorder. But what are the odds of 100%, or is just up to the rater, considering there isn't a direct rating scale? There is a rating scale. It does have very specific guidelines for how they should rate mental health disorder, and it depends on what box the examiner checked. There's for mental health, there's 0, 10%, 30%, 50%, 70%, or 100%. And there's different criteria for each of those levels. So whatever the examiner said is basically, or whatever your private evidence said is basically what the rater will rate the claim off of. I'm within a year of retiring. I haven't visited the doctors for my lower back issue. Do I need proof to show it's service connected? Yes, and I would get to the doctor as soon as possible. Get it documented and well documented before you get out. A claim or benefits before discharge claim or a claim within the first year of service is by far the easiest way to get something service connected. Showing treatment and service and establishing that an event happened is very, very important. You should not wait. Go to the sick call tomorrow. Let them know your lower back is hurting you and let them know just how long it's been hurting. If it's been the whole time you've been in service or you remember the specific injury, be very detailed with the doctor. So our physician, and don't just go once. Go multiple times. As when it starts hurting you again, keep going. Or if it's in chronic pain, make multiple visits. Let them know this is still a problem. I am in a remand. Oh boy, remands can be lengthy. So I'm wishing that yours hurries up. I do not have a VSO, but I'm just waiting on a decision. I have access to my LHI results. Is there anyone who could help me take a look at them for a possible rating I could be looking at? Yes, that's why we have a group on Facebook. Just take a screenshot of just the, none of your personal information, just the part that has the rating criteria. I don't know what condition is for, but yes, we all can help you if you just take a screenshot and post it. Are secondary claims filed on the same form as the service-connected disability? Yes. So secondary claims are filed on the 526EZ if it's your first time filing for the condition and the condition has not been denied before. If the condition has been denied before, then you want to file it on the 0995, the supplemental claim form. Anything that has been denied before has to be a supplemental claim. So if the condition has ever been denied, it has to be a supplemental claim. If it's your first time putting it in, it goes on the original application for benefits, the 526EZ. What does it mean when the VA says diagnosis or no diagnosis? Does it mean you get a rating when the VA gives a diagnosis of what you filed for? If you don't have a diagnosis, you are not very likely to get a rating. So when you have a diagnosis, it means you have a current condition. That's what it means. So you will only get a rating if you have a current condition. That's one of the elements and criteria for service connection. So my VSO recently filed secondary conditions for me only using the prescribed medication. Am I going to need any other evidence, or will they be able to decide my claim just on the medication? They're going to come to a conclusion. They can decide it on just the medication. But if you want to provide other evidence, or you have other evidence, you should probably provide it. The thing about, I was just talking to somebody about this too. The thing about providing evidence is evidence should be provided with a claim when you put in the claim. These days, the VA moves pretty swiftly once a claim is submitted to take the next action, which is setting up an exam, sending your file to the examiner or the contractor, and going from there. And so you run the risk of your evidence not being seen by the examiner if it's not submitted with the claim. So submit your evidence, your letters with the claim. If you're not ready to submit your letters and evidence with the claim, file an intent to file, hold the date, and gather your stuff, and then file. Because with these days, most times I see a claim moved within a week or two to exam status. And at that point, your file is sent to the examiner. And if you submit something else, only the rater will see it. The examiner won't see it. And at the basic level, a lot of times it's not given appropriate probative weight. What you want is the examiner to be able to view the full record, all your statements, all your buddy statements, all your private medical evidence, and be able to come to the best conclusion. And so present everything when you are filing a claim. Not 2 weeks later, not 3 weeks later. Don't go submit evidence when you see it in prep for decision. Submit an evidence when you file the claim. What do I need to do if I disagree with 2 C&P exams that are full of lies? Get private medical evidence. At that point, that the private medical evidence is, the VA medical evidence is fully against you, you need to present some evidence that's for you, medical evidence. So the best thing to do about a bad C&P exam is to get a good C&P exam of your own. If I have an exit exam noting that I'm on shaving profile and I have a past and current diagnosis for it, does that prove in-service complaints? Yes, it does. Is there a best practice checklist for transitioning service members? I haven't really seen one when it comes to claims, but just know you should have somebody, get a representative, have them thoroughly go through your medical records, claim whatever's in your medical records or whatever's ailing you, and get everything documented while you're in. Complain about everything, even if it's only on your separation exam. Document it well and make your claims. Don't wait too long. I wouldn't wait until you got out if you're still in service to file my claim. But if you're already out, don't keep waiting. Go ahead and file your claim. There's a lot of tips out on the internet. I would just do some general research. I don't know that there's a specific best practice checklist though. Maybe I'll create one. Good evening, Miss Carmela. Hey, I recently got another x-ray on my knee because it's been in more pain, but I'm having a heck of a time getting my doctor to review my result. Oh, why wouldn't the doctor review the result from an x-ray? Set up another appointment and go from there. If they don't want to review it, take the x-ray to another doctor. Is it difficult to get approved for extra scheduler TDIU? Yes. The answer is just simply yes. Extra scheduled TDIU is for unusual circumstances. And when it is granted, I see it granted a lot of times at the BVA, not at the agency level. Just if your disability presents an unusual disability picture, medical picture, then you're in the ballpark for extra scheduler TDIU. But other than that, it's just a difficult feat. We'll put it that way. I want to thank you and Combat Craig. With your information teachings on December 19th, 2021, I went from 80% to 100% PRT. You are truly appreciated. That means the world. I'm so happy for you. Do you record these sessions? I certainly do. It's available on all of my platforms on Facebook. It's available on YouTube. It's available on my podcast, which is on Apple and everywhere else you can find a podcast. It's available on what else is available? YouTube, Twitter. Just if you just search for it or search for my name, you'll find it. My claim been stuck at prep for decision for 2.5 months. How long does it take to get a decision? I'm claiming some secondary conditions to PTSD and sleep apnea secondary to PTSD. So this is what I'm seeing. Claims that were filed over the summer between June, July, and August are in a holding pattern in the system that is not making sense. They are still holding well past the suspense date. Which is the date that a human is supposed to go into the system and touch it and move it on to the next level. I don't know what the problem is. I have hundreds of claims in this state that are ready for decision that are not moving, and it's very, very frustrating. It's frustrating for the vet. It's frustrating for me, and I've complained, and they're not doing anything. And I'm trying my best to get these claims moving. You said 2.5 months, so that puts you at about it's been prepped for decision for 2.5 months. Yeah, there's a lot of claims ready for decision right now. I can only tell you what I'm seeing, and I have a very heavy caseload, and I can sort of spot trends that are happening. And those claims that were filed over the summer just seem to be stuck. I get 1 or 2 decisions a day on those claims, and it just randomly happens. It's not moving on the date it's supposed to be moving. I don't know what the problem is. And I hope the VA remedies it soon. They'll probably never admit there was a problem. But from what I'm seeing, and what I've heard from my colleagues, there's some type of systematic issue going on. That's the most I could tell you until they admit to something. I requested my C-file in October 2021. I still have not received it. Is there another route to getting it? C-files at this point, I think, take about 6 months to get from the archives. Yes, there's another route to get it. That's from your accredited representative who has electronic access to the VA system. They can get a file for you. I do offer an express C-file service, but that's only when you need it really, really fast. You should not pay to somebody to get your C-file otherwise. But, it can be lengthy when you request it yourself. It's best to just get a representative, and you can get a free VSO with VBMS access, and they can download your file and give it to you. That is by far the fastest way to get your file. Find the DAV, VFW, somebody, and have them get your file for you. They don't have to do other things for you. They can just get the file, and that's all. The VBA remanded all my issues back to ALJ with issues related to autoimmune disease. Had multiple symptoms while on active duty and now have a next letter from primary care doc. I have final CMP exam next week and have a very detailed personal statement to take along with my QTC questionnaire for the CMP doc. Any experience or lessons learned with autoimmune cases, particularly with remand cases? In a remand, I think that first of all, is it a legacy? Is it under the legacy system or the new appeal system? That's the first question I would ask. But if it gets denied, it's under the legacy system and it gets denied, then it's going back to the BVA, which gives you yet another shot at winning your case. But I think that with your nexus letter and personal statement, especially if the doctor says those things, that should help you a lot. Not necessarily with no specific advice to autoimmune cases, but with remand cases, it's just a matter of, it's another bite at the apple. Provide the evidence that they need to give you a positive decision. If you're in the new appeal system and it still gets denied with your new nexus letter and personal statement, ask for a higher level review or get more evidence and submit a supplemental claim. Fight. Whatever you do, if the BVA remanded it, they saw some hope for the case. And so, you need to fight to get that approved, at whatever level you can, as hard as you can. Keep pursuing. I'm currently in the process of getting medically retired after 20 plus years from an injury while deployed. I'm currently 60%, and they assigned me a VA rep and filed for several more claims due to the injury. Anything that I should expect or be aware of? Also, am I eligible to draw both VA and retirement pay? And so there's something called concurrent receipt. If you get over 50% from the VA, and you should get both VA and retirement pay. And so medically retired after 20 plus years from an injury while deployed. Just expect to have exams, be able to talk about, the claims, the several more claims that were filed and how they affect you, give clear examples. I'm watching what I say here, but just, let them know how the pain affects you and that type of thing. Denied for sleep apnea, even with the PTSD rating of 70%. I have a sleep study through the VA and a CPAP from the VA since December 2020. Denied at high level review. Sleep apnea secondary to PTSD. Okay, so besides having a diagnosis of sleep apnea, the sleep study and the CPAP from the VA are sort of irrelevant to the claim being approved. It gives you a current diagnosis, yes, but it does not mean that your PTSD caused sleep apnea. I've seen plenty of sleep apnea secondary to PTSD claims be approved. Did you present any? Apparently, the examiner said it's not service connected. Did you present any positive medical evidence? If not, then that might be the route I take to get it service connected. Get a nexus letter at this point, present that in a supplemental claim, and you have another bite at the apple. But asking for a higher level review before you present it, and all you have is a negative exam record, is not very helpful. Those VA treatment records are not enough to overcome the negative CMP exam. So you're going to have to present some evidence that is for you, that is in your favor, and go from there. When I had my CMP for presumptive Gulf War, the doctor asked me, did I have other symptoms, and went ahead and did CMP for 3 other conditions. When I got my decision letter, the other 3 things were not included. Do I need to file another claim for those issues? Yes. Hey, Carmela, is a deferred decision a good thing or a bad thing for claims? It is a neutral thing. It has absolutely no meaning. It just means no meaning in terms of positive or negative. What it means is that they needed more information to make the right decision. They either needed a clarification for the doctor, they needed another exam, they needed to gather some private medical records you identified. It could mean any number of things that it got deferred. They should have specified something in the letter, but sometimes they don't. But it does not mean that it's going to be approved or denied. It just means they needed more information to make a decision. It stated in my MRI results that they can see arthritis due to lower lumbar injury. Go ahead and put in a claim and or not due to another possible CMP exam. Are you already rated for your back? If so, if you're rated 40% for your back and you have not been prescribed any bed rest by a doctor, then you probably don't want to put in another claim for your back. If the MRI showed a worsening and you're only at 10%, 0, 10, or 20% for your back, it might be worth it to put in another claim because there's a higher level you can go to. The arthritis alone won't get you a higher level than 10%, but the range of motion of your back, if it's decreased or has worsened, will. So it's a matter of, has your back worsened, and is there a higher level of rating that you can reasonably get to? I'm afraid of using VA mental health care. Doctors here don't give you time. I'm afraid they will open old wounds, leave me that way after the visit until the next visit. I don't feel able to handle that stress on my own between appointments. I have not found a private doctor yet. This is a very, very real and valid concern. I think that is common. Digging through the past can be painful. It can be stressful. But what I would do is encourage you to seek care and find a doctor as quickly as you can trust, that you feel comfortable with. The thing about VA doctors that I don't particularly care for too much is they have a lot of turnover. So when you get comfortable with one psychologist or one therapist, they end up leaving and they end up going to another. If you have the option and you have the opportunity, I would encourage you to get private care for mental health care, a private therapist, a private psychologist, a private psychiatrist, or counselor, and go from there. Somebody that you feel comfortable with, somebody that you trust, and somebody you can make regular visits with. If you need it weekly, if you need it multiple times a week, find somebody that you feel comfortable with. But whatever it is, get treatment. Call the crisis line if you're not able to, find something for a period of time and you need somebody to talk to. Do you have to have an active claim to request your C-file? No, you don't. Podiatrist found osteophyte and ankle from STR. And current x-ray filed claim denied ankle strain. Favorable finding onset of disease and service. He then put arthritis in notes for me. Resubmit as wording. Basically, you need to resubmit as a supplemental claim because it's been denied, and provide positive medical evidence that your ankle strain is at least as likely as not caused by the ankle condition in service. In short, you need a nexus. Is my claim for headaches taking a turn for the worse if the CMP examiner stated on my DBQ that I don't have migraines but do have a history of tension headaches? Will nexus letter be necessary? Your claim is for headaches and the examiner said you had headaches. It's that DBQ should not hurt you if they said you did have headaches and your claim was for headaches and not migraines. What matters most is what their medical opinion said. That will be a different part of the exam in the system, a different form. It will say, where they say it's less likely than not, or at least as likely as not. And that's either negative language or positive language towards your claim. You want to look for that positive language, at least as likely as not, service connected. And you'll probably be granted. So what matters most is the medical opinion, but that DBQ doesn't sound like anything that's going to hurt you. What type of training do a VA rater needs to rate higher levels of SMC claims? They go through various training. They have a whole set of training modules that put them through training on special monthly compensation. Whether they keep up with it is another thing. There was a recent OIG report that they weren't keeping up with it. That was fairly recent, within the last year. But they've made some changes. So, rating higher levels of SMC can be complicated, but the VA does provide raters guidance for it. But if you think you haven't been correctly rated, take it to a higher level. Thank you for all you do for veterans and for me personally. You truly know how to help change lives. Bless you. I'm so happy for you, Ms. Hart. You're right. They dismiss private nexus letters on a regular basis. Is this legal? No, the VA is the enemy. It's not legal. It's what they do in practice and theory is another thing. And it really needs to be stopped at some level. The people at the basic level, I talk with the higher level reviewers about this all the time, that the people on the front line just seem to favor VA evidence over private evidence. They don't understand that there is no provision, no law, no regulation, no procedure that says that VA medical opinions weigh more than private medical opinions. There's a lot of distrust for private medical evidence, and that needs to go away. It really does, because doctors are trained to be objective. Most doctors, if they think something is frivolous, they're not going to write you a letter anyway. Even if you're paying them, a doctor is not just going to say that sleep apnea causes foot pain. Just not going to happen. So it's just something that needs to be addressed, and training in various ways. If I was denied in 2015 for sleep apnea, but I got diagnosed with sleep apnea via sleep study in 2018, I tried to Service Connect secondary and was denied. I have a Nexus letter 2021, best route supplemental claim. Currently at 90%. Awesome. Stephen A., keep a migraine log and describe migraines prostrate and cause you to lay down. That is correct. How effective is certified statement from a spouse who sees my struggles and pain on a daily basis? It can be really helpful. Can you still get rated for having a very mild obstructive sleep apnea with no need for a CPAP? Yes, you can. Now, you could be rated for excessive daytime sleepiness too. My VSO filed for TBI and also 3 secondaries from TBI. How much of a chance do the secondaries have of getting service connected? They have just as much of a chance as any other claim. It's about what evidence you presented and what the VA examiner says, and there being medical relevance and literature to connecting your secondaries to your TBI. So if it's a valid claim, if you're really having those issues, if the examiner says it, your private medical evidence says it, it should get approved. I'm still having issues with my back and ankle. I've been to therapy twice for my ankle. I now have to go for my knees, which have been messed up since the military. Can I claim that? Yes. Denied for blood and stools, hemorrhoids, IBS, and GERD. Admitted for abdominal pains. Now I have B-cell lymphoma cancer. I am a Gulf War vet. Should I file for a presumptive supplemental or new disability? You probably want to, the cancer would be a new claim, but you might want to revisit those old claims too and get some private medical evidence. It might make it easier to get the cancer service connected, but the cancer would be a new claim. Are DBQs still relevant, or are they as more vital as a Nexus letter when filing a claim and appeal? Do they override any examiner's notes, opinions? Yes, they're still relevant. They are it depends on your claim as to if they're as vital or more vital than a nexus letter. They serve different purposes than a nexus letter. A DBQ describes the severity of your condition. It tells them the level, the examiner and the rater, the level they should rate your condition at. That's what a DBQ does. It establishes severity. A nexus letter establishes a medical opinion. Is it related to service or is it not? Is it related to his or her medical records and service, or his another service connected condition, or negligence by VA, or presumption, or there's one more way you can service connect something, aggravation. That's what a nexus letter establishes. So they serve different purposes. Do they override any examiner's notes and opinions? It depends on the facts of the nexus letter and DBQ, how persuasive they are, how in depth they are, the type of medical literature they reference, and support for their medical opinion they provide. If the law says every piece of evidence should be afforded its proper probative weight, and so each piece of evidence is either weighed more or less depending on how persuasive it is and other elements of that piece of evidence. And private evidence can in some cases weigh more than VA medical evidence, I think. And from what I see, in a lot of cases it should, because VA opinions, just being quite frank with you, are crap sometimes. The examiner doesn't take a lot of time to look at you. They see you for 15 minutes. Your treating physician has seen you for 15 years and can provide a detailed, lengthy opinion and provide medical evidence to support their opinion. And it should override an examiner. But at the front, like I was saying earlier, at the front line, at the basic level, the basic agency level, the first time your claim is looked at the VA, they have a tendency to overlook and disregard private medical evidence, which includes nexus letters. So my strategy to combat that has been to use nexus letters at the right time, to present them when it's most favorable for the veteran, which is usually not upfront. I've had an HLR pending since August 4th, 2021, and an error was found on September 2021. As of date, there has not been any updates for the decision. How much longer should I expect for my claim to continue pending? It is a matter of them getting correcting the error, however long that takes. But like I told you, those claims that were there since June, July, August, there's something in the system that's not moving them along. I think it's a systematic issue, like a technical computer issue, but the VA has not admitted to that. It's just like I told y'all about the mailing issues long before the VA admitted they had mailing issues, and they told the public that there was mailing issues. I'm seeing a systematic issue with my claim, a technical issue, and it certainly needs to be addressed. Prior service, Army 95 through 97, are currently active duty, Army now. Tried several times to get past medical records, not in current medical files. VA says files have never arrived. How to get old medical files? Hopefully they're not lost. I would try while you're still in service to get them yourself from the old base that you were at or something like that. But if they are not of record, active Army now, while you're still in, see if you can make some noise and get your records. But hopefully they aren't lost. Let VA know you have, yes. Yes, this is good. Let the VA know you have cancer and they should expedite your claim. Sorry you're going through a tough time. Yes, let them know, that if it's terminal, that, you've been diagnosed with the illness and they should expedite your claim. Can I connect chronic fatigue to my sleep apnea? Yes, that's a valid claim. Not that it will be service connected, but there is a chance that it would be. I mean, it's not a frivolous claim. All mental conditions come down to your degree of social and occupational impairment. Yes, social and occupational impairment is key to a mental health rating. It is what the rating schedule provides for to rate a mental health claim. It's either 0, 10, 30, 50, 70, 100, depends on your level of social and occupational impairment and the box that the examiner checks on the examination form. I got a CMP exam tomorrow, ready to go. I'm rooting for you. If I have a static condition and wanted to know that if I don't open any future claims, is it safe to say I wouldn't have to have a routine future exam? My code sheet shows no routine future exams. Thank you. Yes, that's very safe to say. I would like to have an increase for a static pain that I was rated for 10% on each leg. Would I need to have a CMP exam if I were to? Yes, if you put in an increased claim, you're going to have a new CMP exam. I have a new rather zealous DAV VSO. I have an SE issue that has gotten worse. So when I told her I wanted to put in for the increase, she just went ahead and sent in the paperwork without waiting for me to prepare the package. I sent it to her later. But she also put in for increase in an area that I don't think is actually worse. Should I withdraw that or just let it ride? This is an interesting question. It depends on a number of variables, and I would really have to review the file to answer completely. What I will say is your VSO has reviewed your file, and you say they're zealous, they're into their job. They probably think that you were rated too low for that, and you could qualify for a higher level. What I will say is look at the criteria for the next higher level. If you think that you're going to get reduced at all, like you meet a lower criteria, you might want to withdraw it. I'm not a big advocate of withdrawing claims. I'll just put it out there. At least let it get denied and have it on record so you hold an effective date. But in most cases, I would say just let it ride and go through the exam and see what happens. But if you think it's improved significantly and you're going to get reduced, that's the only case that I would withdraw the claim. Your VSO might be looking at the criteria and what you've told her and just putting the two together. What is the Facebook group called? Veterans VA Disability Claims, CMP Exams, and Nexus Letter Assistance. Veterans VA Disability Claims, CMP Exams, and Nexus Letter Assistance. There is another group by the same name. Somebody stole the name and created another group. So you will see two. Ours is the one that looks like regular writing, not all capital letters and spaced out all funny. So has about 63,000 members at this point. So yeah, definitely look us up on Facebook and join. Good luck, Shane. I have a CMP exam on Sunday. Wishing you the best, Mr. Courtney. To all vets, before you go to CMP exam, write down all your symptoms. Also tell them about your own absolute worst day. Be vulnerable. That is so true. Mr. Bobby is giving some gems tonight. Thank you. If you are going to therapy for PTSD with a VA psychologist or a psychiatrist because your PTSD symptoms have gotten worse, do the VA still send you to a CMP exam? Yes. The VA has me on 5 to 6 different prescriptions, which are causing different issues now. Have an appointment next week, and we'll make sure I tell them. Please get it documented. Another question I have is I went to PT twice, which VA paid for, but it was an outside provider. I've been having issues trying to get those records. What should I do? I would put the request for the records in writing to the doctor. If a private outside provider will not give you your medical records, by far the fastest way to get your medical records is to contact your state medical board. Put in a complaint, tell them you requested your medical. I mean, this is after you've exhausted all efforts to get your medical records and the private provider won't provide them. Contact the medical board, put in a complaint, let them know the name of the doctor and the facility. You'll get your medical records real fast. No doctor is going to put their practice at risk for not providing the legal medical record they're supposed to. So that's a very serious situation if your medical records are not being provided to you. They should be provided in a timely manner. That's the ethical way to do things for a physician. They should be keeping their notes up to date, and they should have them readily available for you. That does not mean they'll have them in a day or two after the visit. It might be a week, might be a month, but as long as they are make sure they're keeping a record, and it shouldn't be too difficult to get. They should have laid out when you became a patient a document that told you how to request them. And if they're not providing them once you request them, then I would take it to a higher level, which is probably the state medical board. You can see if the VA could request them from the doctor and they provide them that way. I mean, exhaust all opportunity to get them before you take it to a level like that. But if they are just not, you're still having issues, the medical board is the fastest way to get them. I have been denied 4 times PTSD. The first 3 times I was denied for no diagnosis. The last time I got a DBQ diagnosis, a nexus letter from Fred Nolan. Denied again. They conceded my stressor and that I have major depression and extreme anxiety. Should I file for those or fight the PTSD? This is a very, very good question. If they are telling you that you have major anxiety and major depression and not PTSD, they conceded your stressor. If they're saying your stressor caused the major depression and anxiety, then it probably should have been rated. But if they provided no nexus for it, and I would ask Dr. Nolan if he would write, this is honestly what I would do. I would go back to Dr. Nolan and ask him if he would write something about major depression and anxiety and not PTSD, if he could. Now, he has to give his clinical opinion. If he feels strongly that it's PTSD and not depression or anxiety, he's probably going to tell you no. But if he can write it, he probably will. He's a very good doctor. Go for the depression and anxiety. That's is a less of a legal standard than PTSD. So, you have to decide what kind of evidence you can get for the depression and anxiety. If you can get the evidence, go with it. If you can't, fight for the PTSD. You might want to go to the Board of Veterans Appeals if you can't get other evidence. Just received my letter and finally received 100%. Congrats. I was denied service connection for rhinitis and IBS, which claimed as presumptive for service in Saudi Arabia. Should I appeal? I might go I think what is the least of something, the least chance of anything happening to your file or your claim, negative, which would be to file with the Board of Veterans Appeals, just let it ride out for a long time, and appeal that, yes, the denial, just so it's on record that it should be service connected. VA denied my 5-year supplemental claim for headaches due to no chronicity of care. Will VA back pay now that I have records of being treated for them, or only pay from date treatment started? If it's been continuously pursued, it will be backdated, and backpaid if it has not been continuously pursued, which means claims have been filed at least every 365 days. No two claims went without a year in between them, then yes, it will be backpaid. If it has not been continuously pursued, then it will not be backpaid. What do I do if VA denies help and file for aid and attendance? Find a representative. There are all kinds of representatives. There's lots of free help. There's lots of paid help. Get a representative and fight. Fight, fight, fight. Can scoliosis, sciatica be secondary to a knee? Scoliosis, I've seen it a lot of times be connected, or back pain generally, which is what I would file for, not scoliosis, but back pain. Secondary to the knee, yes. But the sciatica usually comes from the back, from what I see. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not trying to tell you medically they don't correlate. I'm just trying to tell you what I see as a layperson doing this work. When you are seeing a VA doctor and you turn in a claim and they have you diagnosed with that, what you are claiming, does the VA rater see this, or will they be sent for a C&P exam? They are supposed to always get your VA treatment records. Most of the time they do. And so the rater will see it, but you will likely still be sent for a C&P exam. If you're 100%, well, keep submitting claims unless you want special monthly compensation. That's a good question to ask. I have sleep issues, private at home sleep apnea test showed I have problems. Because of PTSD, I don't think I can do it in VA sleep test. If I can't do one, will it be an automatic denial? Yeah, if for any claim you're trying to get service connected for, you need a current diagnosis, a current condition, documented diagnosis. So it will probably be denied if you don't have it diagnosed by the VA or some other doctor. But if it's privately diagnosed, it can still be service connected. I've heard that exit exams are intimidating. Basically, doctors are always in a hurry to get in and out, meaning that not a lot of things that get covered during the visit due to that time. What advice do you recommend? That can be true. But what I recommend is on the part that you can fill out, the part that you have control over, all the check boxes that you get to check, and the big open space that you get to write in, that you detail things as detailed as you can. Check all the boxes of things that are bothering you, write it out. If you have headaches, I would write headaches. They've been going on for 5 years now. I have been seen for them. I have been diagnosed with them. They affect me every day. Blah, blah, blah. For knee pain, I would write, I initially injured my knee in 1999. I've been seen for it multiple times over the years. My knee pain affects me daily, blah, blah, blah. And keep going with the rest of your conditions. The part that you have control over, write as much as possible. So when the VA goes to look at it for a claim, it's all there. A 100% of my medical care and diagnosis is through the VA. Aren't they required to provide supporting documentation and nexus letters? I don't have private doctors. The VA itself does, like the health side does not, they're not required to provide nexus letters or supporting documentation. What they're required to provide you with is treatment. You can ask for supporting documentation. They might give it to you, they might not. That's where private nexus letter providers come in. But what the VA benefit side will do, if you have the diagnosis in medical care, they will give you an exam. And at that exam, the examiner will say whether it's connected to service or not, the care you've been getting and the diagnosis you have. The VA has what is called a duty to assist, and that's just helping you develop the record, helping you get evidence to support your claim. And so they're going to send you to an exam that's totally free. You don't need a private doctor for it. And you should get the results of that exam and see if it's approved, granted, or denied. If it's denied, you might have to get some private medical evidence. If it's granted, you don't have to worry about it. So, getting VA treatment, continual VA treatment is a very good thing. It shows in the record that there's a real problem. But a detriment to that can be that a lot of times VA doctors don't want to provide nexus letters or, a nexus for claims or VA benefits. So you have to go the private way. This may not be related to the purpose of the live session, but I want to thank you for pressing the VA for taking forever to approve applications for those such as myself who have applied to VSOs. I'm a year in. What is the issue? It's absolutely ridiculous, Mr. Michael. I wrote the head of OGC the other day and just said this doesn't make any sense. There are skilled, competent people trying to become agents and get accredited and other things. And the process at this point is taking 2 years for people to get accredited as an agent like myself. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And I let it be known to the VA the other day, to the VA secretary and the top people, and basically told them they need to reform the process. The issue is I don't think the office is staffed well. I don't think they pay enough attention to the agent program. That's why there are so few agents. Generally, there's probably less than 1,000 of us nationwide. And I think the applications have picked up for them, but it should not take 2 years for the VA to accredit somebody to help with VA claims. If you can get a top secret clearance from the government, federal government, in 6 months, it should not take a year to get a background check to become a claims agent. That's my opinion. So yeah, I'm going to advocate for other agents out there and try to advance our position, because I know that we will serve veterans well. If you can pass the test, you can serve a veteran. I'm glad you said that about the claims, because I filed a claim in August and they deferred 3 of them. The others they denied. Wow. My biggest concern is going to the exam, and the pain I've had my whole career is not bad at the time. I have 22 years of records and problems, but they come and go. How do I present myself on the exam if the pain is steady that day? That's a good question. What I will say is that in terms of pain itself, there's other elements that come into play, but in terms of pain itself, your records will speak for you. The examiner should review your records. They should see that it's been a steady problem. They should listen to your complaints of frequent pain, how they're going to ask you about the severity on most days, and they should take all that into account when they're checking boxes and how it affects you. How long does it take for a VA judge to see your claim? At this point, it's taken a long time. Even for AMA claims under the new appeal system, because they're trying to get all the legacy appeals pre-2019, February 2019 out the way, they are only working on about 20% of claims that have been put in since February 2019, and it is taking forever. I'm telling you, I have 200 appeals at the BVA, and I'm getting a decision, maybe one decision every 2 months. It is going painfully slow. So how long does it take for a judge to see your claim? It really depends on what lane you chose. And until you tell me that, I could give you more of a time frame. But generally, at this point, it's taken between 1.5 years to 5 years. What would you suggest if I had been ignored by every doctor since the 90s for my chronic pain until finally one who prescribed Cymbalta about 4 years ago? No one will send me to a specialist for treatment or even an actual diagnosis. Will buddy statements come in handy, or will it keep getting denied because of no actual diagnosis? I'm a Desert Storm vet. Buddy statements will help, and get those records from the records where the doctors ignored it. at least you complained about it in the record. So get those records and submit them. I think you have a chance. When I go to my future CMP exam next week, can I complain about the scar on my knee, which is not part of my current claim, but was claimed years ago when it was just 4 meniscus tears before my partial knee replacement, which is a 6-inch long scar. I also have to wear knee braces on both knees. I think that at the exam, if the doctor sees a scar, they're supposed to do the DBQ for scar. So yes, complain about the scar too. My VSO told me that they cannot give me a copy of my C-file or order it for me. It is something I need to request from the VA myself. That is not true. If they have electronic access, they can give you your file. I mean, the VA, on the VA system, I have access to it myself, and they have a program specifically for downloading claims files, called eFolder Express. If you're a VA, all VSOs don't have access. Some don't bother to get electronic access to the system, but it's a very, very valuable tool to have. I don't know how I could practice veterans law and do claims without it. So if your VSO doesn't have it, that might be one red flag. Get somebody who can give you your C file or request it from the VA. How many times in a year should I make a visit to VA for a disability? Are annual physicals enough? Yes, annual physicals are enough. And thank you for all you do. These videos are much appreciated. Any advice on using the car grant? Is the form only needed for the dealership? Are there any stipulations? There's a limit on how, I think it's like 19,000. I would use it to your greatest benefit. That's what I'll say about that. Get the most you can get out of that money. I would go for a big alteration. Whatever you can get the most of, get that. Use the grant to your greatest benefit. If you qualify for it, very few people do, but if you've gotten it, use it. Can you explain the bilateral factor ratings? Yes. If both sets of a paired limb body parts, like both arms are rated, both legs are rated, both feet are rated, both hands are rated, you will get an extra percentage called the bilateral factor in your rating. It's automatically added. You don't have to worry about it. They do it. They add it to your percentage, and it just bumps it up a little bit because both sides of your body are affected. They believe that causes more disability. That's about as simple as I can make it. 20% separated AC joint, same accident, rated 70%. I gained 28 pounds in 15 months. Obesity is not a condition that can be service connected at this point. It's not a rateable disability for VA purposes yet. Now, that is in some court cases right now. It could change soon, but as of today, there's nothing in the manual that tells them to rate obesity. So if you're trying to use obesity as an immediate step, it sounds like you have a good case for that for another condition. So use it. If a claim has been deferred, is that considered a decision so I could not ask for it to be removed? No, a deferral is not a decision. My claim is on hold. The VA is saying they're rating on a rationale for service connection from the CMP examiner. What does this mean? They're waiting on the examiner to turn in your exam results. That's what that means. I'm using a CPAP machine after being diagnosed with obstructive sleep apnea while on active duty. Is that enough to be considered service connected? I think so. Opened claims back in 2006, first year after discharge, but VA said I canceled it. I reopened it in 2016 and got service connected. So can effective date go back to 2006 Q? If you cancel the claim, I don't think so. That you would have formally withdrawn the claim for them to stop the claim. And I don't think you could call a Q on that because it's as if there was no claim in 2006. But I can't really tell you without reviewing the record. All I can tell you is review the record very thoroughly and make sure the claim was actually withdrawn and go from there. A rating manager called me and advised that she put her most senior level reviewer on my case to review why certain documented things were denied. I was told today that the previously denied claims have been retracted and they are being worked on, but I filed a supplemental claim for same contentions before this, and those say ready for decision. Any insight on this? Sounds like that's a very good thing. It was nice of the manager to call you. The supplemental claim might have facilitated this call and what's happening. And it might be ready for a decision because they reviewed what you filed and they are ready to make a decision. So it sounds like these are very positive developments in your case. How long does a claim stay in decision phase? There's no defined period. I was diagnosed with bilateral flat feet, 0 arches. I was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis and flat feet bilateral by a foot specialist. Would this be good medical evidence? Yes. If you're PNT for less than 5 years and the VA is not scheduling any appointments, it's a good idea for veterans to let it be, even if it's been several years. If you're 100% PNT, yes. If not, and you feel like your conditions have worsened, you have to, weigh the pros and cons. I was rejected in the past for back and knees. I did a claim again and it went to the Board of Appeals. It showed they granted it, but when it was sent back to the VA, it was rejected. It seemed it was remanded. I understand that I have to do a supplemental claim. I understand that I have months left. What should I do? Get new evidence, private medical evidence, like a nexus letter, and submit a supplemental claim. For years, I've been going to the VA for pain and restlessness in my legs, and they can't seem to find anything, but I have been reading that Desert Storm survivors have been having this issue. Should I file a claim? You might want to, just to get it on record that now, I don't know that it will be approved because it's not presumptive, but if you can tie it to service and a doctor is willing to help you tie it to service, then you might be able to get it granted. But it's not presumptive yet. It might be in the future. Go ahead and get it on record by filing a claim that you have the issue and you believe it's service connected. Once I file my primary claim for flat feet, then can I file a secondary claim for bilateral plantar fasciitis? They're both foot conditions. They're both rated on the same scale. You can't be rated for those things separately. And so if you already have a claim for flat feet, I would let that ride. If it gets denied, you might try another claim for plantar fasciitis on a supplemental claim form. But or you could apply for both at the same time. That's really up to you. There's no detriment to doing a secondary claim, for plantar fasciitis, but you're not going to get plantar fasciitis secondary to flat feet. They're just going to lump the name together and give you the same rating. So because it can't be rated separately. So either it's flat feet or it's plantar fasciitis secondary to something else, like your back or knees or ankles or something like that. So, you can't have a primary claim and a secondary claim at the same time, though, just not 2 foot conditions. I hope that makes sense. Asking for a friend. He broke his leg playing basketball off duty. Can he file a claim for pain now? Absolutely. This is the thing that's different about the military than civilian jobs. When you're in the military, you're on duty 24/7, even when you're on vacation or on leave. If they call you and they start a war tomorrow and call you to it, you have to be there. So whatever happens for that time that you're on active duty is attributed to your time in the military, and it is, you can file a claim for it. Now, playing basketball could have been his way of doing PT, physical training, keeping his body in shape, staying within the weight requirements of the military. So he can absolutely file a claim. I have a CMP next week. My VA.gov file doesn't show the documents that were supposedly filed by my VSO. When I called the 800 line, they said the docs are there, but why don't they show up? Files that I uploaded myself can't be seen. That's an interesting. I saw an attorney complain about this the other day, or where was I at? I think I was on an internet forum where somebody was complaining about things not being able to see on VA.gov. It's a common problem. If the VA told you they have it, they have it. You should be able to see it, but they're still working on VA.gov and working with it, and it does not have all the same functionalities that eBenefits did. I would check over on eBenefits if you can still get in and see if the docs are there. If not, you might just want to let it ride because they told you they were there and they're there, and your VSO told you they submitted them, and your VSO can probably see it. All right, guys, I'm so sorry I can't take all the questions tonight. It's been about an hour and a half that I've been here, and I have thoroughly enjoyed being with you all. If I can, I will try to get back to some of your questions later. But thank you for spending this time with me. I will be back the first Thursday of next month at 8 a.m., same time, same place. If you're watching, thank you for joining me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you are. Thank you. I wish you the best on your claims. And if I can help you reach out, if I can refer you to somebody, I will. I'm not taking new clients right now, but if I can refer you to somebody, I will. There's referrals on my website. And I look forward to hearing the success stories and you guys winning claims. Take care.